So thank you for starting your day with us. To all the ones who made it after the party last night, props to you. But you're in for a treat. It's not every day that you get such a distinguished panel. We got two funds, one Latin American investor, one cross-border investor, co-founder of a fintech unicorn, which is even rarer, and the founder of a Colombian fintech company democratizing access to investing. So we'll extract what we can. And I guess to make the conversation a little bit more lively, I was going to play devil's advocate and paint the picture that out of the last 31 instances where inflation has risen about above 8% in the US, like what we experienced in the first half of 2022, returning to normal conditions of inflation under 2%, it takes about 18 months. So we're in this all the way till the end of 2024, maybe longer. High inflation, high interest rates affect our world in the tech sector. Global tech funding decreased 35% in 2022. And for Latin America, it decreased 62%. So mix that with a political landscape shifting in Latin America, late-stage funds exiting the scene. There's no exits as well. Like M&A went from 164 transactions in late 2021 to 84 in the last quarter. Mariano and Andrew, why invest in Latin American VC in this landscape?
Anyone can hear me? Here's it. Okay, great. Yeah, so there's a few high-level trends that Side Door uses as a sort of a starting point. The first one is smartphone penetration rates. I think a couple of years ago it was about 50% in LATAM. I haven't looked at the most recent statistics, but I'm sure it's even higher now. It's never going to slow or reverse. So it's always much easier for businesses and entrepreneurism to flourish when massive amounts of people have the power of an iPhone or a smartphone equivalent in their pocket or in their hand. Another one's urbanization. This has been a trend. It's been a trend for a while now in Latin America. That's not to say that businesses can't succeed in rural areas. However, typically, the companies that we're interested in investing in are high growth, and that usually requires an element of scale, which is much easier when you have massive amounts of people living in confined areas. So that's also something that we appreciate when we're diligencing companies. The growth of the middle class. It's still, this is a tricky one because Latin America still doesn't have mature economies, but there is still growth there. They are prone to shocks, I think, the research shows, but this is venture capital. This is a business of risk, and it's one that we're willing to take. If Latin American investing was a slam dunk, everyone would do it, which would probably reduce the returns and probably make venture capital a very different business here. So we're perfectly happy still participating in that. I should stop there. Maybe let you take it from there for a little bit.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be back here in Guate. I've been in venture capital since 1999 from Argentina, so I have experienced almost everything. So this is one more challenge, I would say. But we have a very big investor from the Middle East that when we handshake with them, it was a different world. But because it's very big and due diligence and lawyers all over the world, until the moment where they have to make the contribution, sign the documents, the closing with them, it was almost a year. And during that year, it was the war, the bear markets, and all the crisis. So every day I woke up and I said, this is the day they are going to tell me that it's over, that they are going to forget about LATAM, and that's all. But it didn't happen. And when we close with them and we have a conversation about why, even with all of this, why? And they say, Of course, you have these political swings, you have and the world context and the problems with emerging markets, but you are a big region with a big market in a very good time zone where everything is to be done, so the potential upside is one of the best. You have very talented people that are now focused on solving those big problems that you have in the region. It's a territory of peace. You have food and energy very close. And also something that started is not going to finish, it's going to endure. This vision of the entrepreneurs trying to solve the big challenges of the region, which are urgent also. Of course, it would take time for the markets to heal, for the LPs to heal, for the VCs to heal, for many startups. So there's going to be more pain down the road for a couple of months or a year and a half, but the ecosystem will prevail. That's our vision. And great companies are being generated these days and started because we have the needs there, which are a lot in every sector that you can see. And the private sector has stepped forward with most of these challenges. I think we were talking with Danny about the pandemics, the good things of the pandemics. One of the things for me is that many aspects that were sort of taboo or mostly for the public agenda, like the private sector was still reluctant, entrepreneurs saying, what about the incumbents, what is going to happen on regulations, where now all those prejudices are broken, and so the talent was unleashed, and that is not going to stop. So we want to be there trying to help the entrepreneurs, and we want to be part of that movement. And so the deep trends in LATAM are still there and very strong.
Excellent. Taking that segue about entrepreneurs and switching to the founder perspective, fintech wasn't immune to this drop. I mean, it takes the lion's share of all VC invested in Latin America. About half of all the funds that are invested in VC go to fintechs, but it saw a decrease of 45% in funding, and now mix that with starting a fintech, and just in Mexico alone, there's 650 companies operating in the sector. What key insights can you give the audience about how to make a fintech a success from your perspective?
Thank you. Thank you for, I thought you were my friend, not devil's advocate, but I really love banking and I love fintech. And I think there's still a lot of opportunities. Please raise your hand if it is easy to pay somebody in Sweden. Well, you're a founder, it doesn't count. But I was in a tuk-tuk yesterday, and I had to use Stripe to pay. So that was just a sign that still there's a lot of things to do in fintech. And still there's a lot of people that need to have credit. So for me, it's like we're just starting. So what's the major opportunity? I always say that for me, it was easier to fund a fintech company because I was a banker. So what I always tell fintech founders, it's very easy to lend money. It's very hard to take the money back. So fintech, it's about responsibility, it's about trust, and you need to know about it. So I was very lucky to be in a dinner with David Vélez, who's, for me, one of the greatest entrepreneurs, especially in LATAM and also worldwide. And one thing that he suggested, which I always knew it was important, is that one of the things that he thinks the only thing that he will do better in Nubank is to hire people that understood about banking earlier in Nubank. So for me, one of the major things in fintech, please get more advice, hire people that do understand the business, because it's different to fail in a marketplace than to fail in a fintech and lose $100 million. So
Yeah.
that won't help the ecosystem. But because I'm a founder, but I also invest. So I'm always in your side, and funds or VCs also do not like to lose money. So we all have to create a better ecosystem. So that will be my advice.
Yeah, it's a great counterintuitive advice. Like your best bet is to steal bankers into the fintech to beat the bankers. Cool. How about you, Carlos?
Well, I think that in yesterday investor mixer, I don't know if you guys go, but McKinsey study like summarized pretty well what any fintech now like entrepreneur will like learn like to try to have success in this space, you know. I think that right now the whole sector it is like more mature. We have like learned of a lot of mistakes. For example, we have to realize that because when we started our company and when we passed through Y Combinator, we were like in that last months of crazy stuff like high valuations, like easier money like from VCs, and we have to trim and like to adapt like pretty quickly to the new reality, you know. So that's one thing that the new entrepreneurs will not suffer, I expect, and that anyone who want to start like in the fintech space like should learn, you know. So for the people that maybe weren't yesterday, McKinsey talked about the CAC optimization. For example, in our case, 1 year ago we had.
Maybe you can tell the audience what CAC is quickly.
Okay, CAC is cost of acquisition. So how much you? Yes. Customer. So, for example, so you can like have an example. 1 year ago in Tree, we were spending about $27 to bring one active user. You know, it was not world class, but it was not so rare. But it is crazy, like compared to right now reality. You know, so we have to start working there like pretty tough. One of the funny things that happened was our lead investor of the seed, like in November of 2021, like jealous because we were like spending so little in acquisition, and we start like to spending a lot more. And 3 months after, they were like requesting like, hey, cut.
Yeah.
I was so bored. There it is. Like, hey, cut all the things you were doing and work in the CAC, you know? So we have to downturn to $3. That was like the first thing McKinsey told us yesterday.
Got it. So you would be reducing your cost or around those lines,
yes.
Your top advice. Now, maybe I could float this to all of you. Drew, you mentioned trends. What is the most exciting trend you're seeing in Latin American VC? And I'll float that question to all of you. Maybe you could kick that one off, Drew.
Yeah, piggybacking off of what was already said, I think that there is a lot of strong tech talent being emerging. I think the top universities right now are pumping out graduates from STEM programs, STEM being science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Before I was an investor, I worked at Carta. It's the cap table management software company.
Yeah, we use them.
Yep, I imagine quite a few, maybe here, I've heard of them. Anyway, we had a pretty large contingent of Brazilian-based engineers and product designers who were a big part of that organization. I don't imagine, I haven't been there since pre-pandemic, but I don't imagine that trend has diminished. I'd imagine with the pandemic, honestly, it's probably accelerated given the fact that a lot of it allows for remote work. It allows for Latin American technologists and founders to come home, to build remote teams. So it just kind of reduces it reduces the barriers. I believe in Latin America is probably in a position where it can accelerate its position relative to the U.S. in that way.
Got it. You can take it, Mariano.
Okay. Working? Okay.
No.
Not working. Okay, ahí está. Everything in LATAM needs to be transformed, and every sector you look, and there is innovation. It's very interesting. But of course, I would say fintech. I think we're just starting, as Danny was mentioning. No, it's not. We have more. There was a first layer or even a second layer of fintechs, but even with that, we are many gaps and needs, and financial inclusion is not just having an account. In fact, there are many people who have an account, they don't use it, or they don't. No.
Yeah, I don't know if they're cutting you off or.
Okay. So that's one thing. And another trend, of course, I would say related to health. Also because of the pandemics, but it was very clear and transparent all the programs that we have in the region. So there are many startups now addressing health and wellness, etc. So I would also add that. And supply chain.
Supply chain.
Supply chain. The B2B world is analogic, very inefficient, and in every sector. And we are seeing a lot of things, especially when the worldwide supply chain is sort of broken. And what's happening in Mexico, which is very interesting with the nearshoring. Well, but supply chains all over Latin America, I think it's another sector to have a very close look.
Got it. What about you, Daniela? Within the fintech sector or in general, any trends?
Fintech, I think there's a lot of opportunity in remittances. Still in fintech infrastructure, still fintech credit. But I think that we also need to be strategic as founders. So what are the VCs looking for? So for me, it's really important. And what is LATAM good at? So for example, agribusiness. We are one of the best continents in the agribusiness. We need to have solutions there. Climate tech. It concerns all of us. Health tech. Fintech. Education. So for me, we have to be really careful about AI, because today it's like really fancy when you say, I'm doing something in AI and you get like 10 million funding. But we really need to understand AI. We really need to have the experts. And with AI, for example, education, it's going to change. Even I cannot imagine how it's going to change. So for me, I started in Stanford a AI course because I really need to understand. I'm really curious. So we all need to be a little bit more curious and like try to be smart in, okay, agribusiness. There's a lot of talented people in agribusiness, so focus on that also and try to bring some solutions.
Got it.
Yes, I agree 100%. Definitely in the finance sector, you can find like a lot of inclusion opportunities. I don't know if you guys try to make any tours in Guatemala, but you can see like in the street like the lot of opportunities that they are. Also, agrofintech is definitely one of the main things. LATAM is still like so agricultural, and it's like a whole rustic sector, so definitely there. And all what happened that has to be with climate, with clean tech, with all this kind of stuff, like especially that which are affecting like the pyramid scheme, like trying to get like the most of the people, for sure there is a lot of opportunities.
Got it. And taking your segue into AI, we wouldn't be a respectable panel if we didn't touch a little bit on AI. At least what we're seeing on our deal flow is a bunch of companies pretending to be AI, but that are not really AI companies. They're just using AI to wrap around a functional model or a foundational model. What have you seen, or what in your deal flow or coming out of Latin America operating in the AI sector that's promising?
Yeah, I'll be honest. We at Sidor, we're a little skittish around AI right now, just because, well, for one, I'm not an AI engineer. We don't have someone with deep technical, SME knowledge on the space. And two, we totally agree that AI is going to change everything. It's going to be, a huge catalyst for growth in a lot of industries. There is we worry that there is potentially a bit of a hype cycle. You can imagine how many pitches I take on, per week or per month that have some sort of AI component to it. And it's really hard to find the winners when everyone is doing something. So we'll see how it plays out. We have made a couple of bets, but we also want to remain vigilant and see, especially with valuations. There's a bit of a bubble that we see as well. It's a bit of a buzzword as a way to increase valuations. So we want to make sure that we're not getting caught up in the most recent hype, and we're actually finding founders who are heads down, building something that really matters.
You got it. Any closing AI thoughts? Yeah, we can go over a little bit, I think. You got it, yeah?
Hello? Okay. Yes, one of my partners, Jorge, he was the Secretary of State of Science and Technology of Argentina. He was the developer of the National Plan of Artificial Intelligence, so he's every day talking about that with us and with LPs. So it's interesting to learn, as Danny was mentioning. We have made a couple of investments, and every startup that we analyze, we talk about this. And of course, there is some hype, but I think I would say that it's under-hype in many cases. I think this is, well, I don't say if the last release of GPT-4 that they can understand images and video and transfer that to code. It's very interesting what is happening in human resources, not only in developers, hyper-potentiated developers, but also in human resources, in fintech, and in creative industries. Which is a sector where in LATAM is very strong. So I would pay a lot of attention to that. But mostly try to learn. I think it's important.
Got it.
One last thought.
Go for it.
Cost efficiency and one example. Who's better in creating the best stock portfolio in a bank? AI or just a lot of human beings with algorithms trying to understand a lot of data? So for sure in the future, AI will disclose which is like the better stock portfolio. So we need to really think that AI can help us doing things that we as humans we're not able to do, like process so much information. So.
Perfect. Well, thank you, and thank you for joining us, and I hope you took some nuggets of information there, and enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah.
Thank you.